Tesla, and now Realtor.com. The online real estate services company is relocating its headquarters from California to Austin.
Dom, we're talking about Elon Musk moving from California to Texas.
You felt the shift, the nervous energy behind glossy press releases, the "we're still committed to California" lines that sound more like breakup texts than promises. One day it's another Silicon Valley success story. The next it's a household name company quietly packing up and heading to Texas, Florida, or anywhere without a crushing tax bill and regulatory headache. This isn't gossip anymore, it's a pattern. And once you connect the dots, the question becomes unavoidable. Is California, the birthplace of innovation and ambition, slowly pricing itself out of its own dream? But ecosystems don't collapse overnight. They erode, quietly at first, then all at once. The first cracks appeared as complaints executives used to laugh off started turning into serious agenda items in board meetings. Office leases ballooned, payroll costs exploded. Regulatory compliance stopped being a box to check and started becoming a full-time department. And the so-called California premium, once justified as the price of admission to greatness, began to feel less like an investment and more like a liability.
This is a personal income tax form in California. I never want to see one of these in the great state of Texas.
Despite all of this, and this is where the story gets complicated, California is still an absolute heavyweight. No honest conversation can ignore that. The state remains home to some of the most powerful universities on the planet, a venture capital network that still dwarfs most countries, and a geographic position that offers unmatched access to Pacific Rim markets. Entire industries still rely on the density of talent and capital that only California can provide. For companies that can afford the friction, that can absorb the costs and navigate the maze of regulations, the upside is still massive. Some of the most valuable businesses on Earth are proof of that. California isn't dead. It's just harder. And that harder part is doing a lot of work. Because while California's advantages are real, so are the pressures pushing companies to reconsider their loyalty. The daily reality for many business owners now feels less like riding a wave and more like pushing a boulder uphill. Taxes, regulations, real estate, labor costs, lifestyle trade-offs, they don't exist in isolation. They stack, they compound.
I think the tone needs to change at the top. Texas, Florida have a very welcoming tone towards the businesses that are coming out from California.
And eventually, even the most emotionally attached founders start asking questions they never thought they'd ask. Questions like, what if we didn't have to do this here? Let's talk about taxes, because this is usually where the conversation turns from philosophical to brutally practical. California's corporate tax rate sits at 8.84%, one of the highest in the country. On its own, that's already enough to give CFOs heartburn. But then you layer in the highest top personal income tax rate in the United States, 13.3%, and suddenly the math gets ugly fast.
California's top income tax rate is the highest in the nation at 13.3%. HP and Oracle are moving their headquarters, while Tesla sets up a new facility in the Lone Star State.
That personal rate doesn't just hit wealthy individuals in theory. It directly impacts founders, executives, and highly compensated employees, the very people companies need to retain if they want to compete. Now compare that to states like Texas or Florida, where personal income tax is zero. Zero. Not reduced, not capped. Gone. For a startup scraping by, that difference might be survivable. For a large established company, that difference can translate into tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars a year. At that scale, relocation stops being political or emotional and becomes fiduciary. The Tax Foundation has repeatedly ranked California near the bottom for business tax climate. And while reports don't make decisions, boards absolutely do. Taxes alone might not push a company out the door, but they're often the first shove. Regulations tend to be the second. California's regulatory environment is famously complex, layered, and unforgiving. Many of these rules were created with good intentions, protecting workers, consumers, and the environment. But intention doesn't always equal efficiency. Laws like the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, have become notorious for delays, legal battles, and unintended consequences. What should be a straightforward permitting process can stretch into years, especially in dense urban markets like Los Angeles or San Francisco. For businesses, uncertainty is poison. You can plan around high costs. You can budget for taxes. What's harder to manage is not knowing whether a project will be approved, delayed, or buried under litigation. Labor laws add another layer of complexity, with strict requirements that often differ dramatically from other states. Compliance becomes a moving target, influenced by shifting political priorities and regulatory interpretations.
2008 and 2019, 18,000 companies have left California for more tax and regulatory friendly states.
Even Governor Gavin Newsom has acknowledged the strain this puts on businesses, signing legislation aimed at streamlining certain processes. But for many executives, these reforms feel incremental in the face of a system that still demands enormous time, money, and legal expertise just to operate. Then there's the cost of simply existing. California isn't just expensive to do business in, it's expensive to live in, and those two things are inseparable. Commercial real estate prices in cities like San Francisco and San Jose regularly rank among the highest in the world. Office space that would be considered premium anywhere else is treated as baseline here. Residential housing costs follow the same pattern, creating a situation where even well-paid employees struggle to afford a reasonable lifestyle near their workplace. This creates a talent paradox. California still attracts some of the smartest people on the planet, but it's increasingly hard to keep them. Long commutes, cramped living conditions, and eye-watering rent wear people down. Employees start looking elsewhere, not because they don't love their jobs, but because they want space, stability, and a future that doesn't involve sharing a house into their 40s. When talent starts leaving, companies follow, not out of spite, but out of necessity. Utilities, insurance, healthcare, all of it costs more. Even softer factors start to matter. Quality of life, work-life balance. The feeling that your paycheck actually buys you something.
I think a lot of Californians and a lot of people from outside of Texas moved here not thinking it was going to be you hear it it's hot summers when it's June, July, August, it's 105 outside. And
when employees relocate for affordability and lifestyle reasons, businesses face a choice: fight geography or adapt to it. Increasingly, adaptation means relocation. And this isn't just anecdotal. The data backs it up. Reports from institutions like Stanford University's Hoover Institution have tracked hundreds of companies leaving California over a relatively short period, with the pace accelerating in recent years. The Public Policy Institute of California has noted that while the state still attracts new businesses, especially startups, the loss of established major companies is what raises alarms. These aren't impulsive decisions. Corporate relocations often take years of planning, internal debate, and financial modeling before they culminate in a carefully worded announcement. Some of the most high-profile exits have been impossible to ignore. Executives like Elon Musk didn't just leave quietly, they explained loudly why they felt pushed out. Musk's frustration with California's policies spilled into public view multiple times, from clashes over COVID-era factory shutdowns to his reaction in 2024 after Governor Newsom signed legislation related to parental notification policies in schools. When Musk wrote, "This is the final straw," it wasn't just a tweet, it was a signal to other executives who had been feeling similar pressures. To be fair, context matters.
Elon Musk moved from Los Angeles to Austin, where Tesla's building its next gigafactory.
What really is surprising is the really major big companies that have put down roots here.
According to a 2025 report from the Public Policy Institute of California, only about 3% of firms in the state moved to a different state. That's not an exodus on paper, but size matters. Larger companies are significantly more likely to leave than smaller ones, and their departures carry outsized economic impact. When a multinational corporation relocates, it doesn't just take executives with it. It takes jobs, tax revenue, and influence. Meanwhile, people themselves have been voting with their feet. Census data from late 2024 showed nearly 700,000 people left California. Between 2022 and 2023, the reasons were consistent: affordability and lifestyle. Businesses don't operate in a vacuum. When population shifts accelerate, corporate strategies follow. Look at the names. McKesson, a pharmaceutical giant and one of the highest-ranking Fortune 500 companies ever to leave California, moved its headquarters to Texas back in 2019. Chevron, with roots in California, stretching back to the 19th century, relocated to Houston in 2024, openly criticizing state policies for making investment unappealing. Tesla's move to Austin in 2021 became a cultural flashpoint, symbolizing the limits of scaling in the Bay Area. Oracle left California in 2020, settled briefly in Austin, and then announced another move, this time to Tennessee, citing lifestyle and industry alignment.
There are also some real reasons for Oracle to leave the Bay Area and move its headquarters to Austin, Texas. The number one reason, it's money.
Playboy, once synonymous with Los Angeles excess, announced its move to Miami, with leadership bluntly describing California as too difficult to do business in. Realtor.com followed the Texas migration, praising Austin's talent pool, affordability, and quality of life.
So why is realtor.com relocating to Austin?
It was an obvious decision, really. I mean, Texas is really the fastest growing economy in the United States.
Each move sends a message. Individually, they can be explained away. Collectively, they tell a story. And that story doesn't end when the headquarters sign comes down. Every corporate departure sends ripples through the state's economy. Jobs disappear, not just executive roles, but administrative, service, and support positions. Local businesses lose customers. Commercial real estate vacancies rise. Housing markets shift. And perhaps most critically, tax revenue takes a hit. California's budget relies heavily on income taxes from high earners. When those earners leave or restructure their lives elsewhere, the impact is immediate and painful. Public services feel the strain. Schools, infrastructure projects, and social programs all depend on a stable tax base. One major company leaving can alter the financial trajectory of an entire community. This is the quiet aftermath that rarely makes headlines, but shapes daily life long after the press releases fade.
California has to realize that eventually all of the anti-business laws and regulations they passed, we're going to catch up.
So, where does that leave California? Somewhere complicated. The state is still rich in talent, culture, and opportunity. It still produces world-changing companies, but the margin for error has shrunk. The balance between innovation and regulation, between ambition and affordability, has become harder to maintain. The trend of companies leaving isn't about abandoning California's identity. It's about businesses searching for sustainability in an environment that increasingly demands more than it gives. The sunshine is still there. The dream hasn't vanished. But for a growing number of companies, the cost of staying awake inside that dream has become too high.